So, Congressman, why do you, I know where you stand on this, why do you believe you can't both appease former President Trump and his narrative there and somehow build the Republican Party?
Well, it's two things. Number one, Trump set the table. He's the one that continually brings up a stolen election narrative. He's the one that has convinced members of Congress, including what we saw a few days ago, to have a hearing on January 6th and claim that this was nothing but a tourist group or that it was hugs and kisses. I mean, if you saw the press releases he put out yesterday about this is the lie of the century, the greatest crime of the century. You cannot, on the one hand, say that Donald Trump is a leader or the leader of the Republican Party, which I believe he is the leader of the Republican Party right now because Kevin McCarthy gave him his leadership card. You can't say he's the leader and then say we have to move on. I would love to move on, Chuck, but listen, when Liz Cheney, probably on a total of maybe 4 or 5 times, just simply answered questions that the election wasn't stolen, and then Donald Trump dozens and dozens of times says it is, it's not Liz's fault.
Hey, what is the Republican Party now? I want to put up a Club for Growth stat here. It was Chip Roy and Elise Stefanik who ended up replacing Liz Cheney. She has a lifetime Club for Growth record of 35%. This is a conservative economic group. And Chip Roy is a 100%. For what it's worth, Ilhan Omar, a Democratic member of Congress from Minnesota, has a higher lifetime Club for Growth rating than Elise Stefanik. What does that say to the American people about what the Republican Party is today?
Well, I think what it needs to say to any Republican that's maybe kind of confused by the moment we're in is policy doesn't matter anymore. It literally is all your loyalty to Donald Trump. As I've said before, this is something that like echoes a little bit out of North Korea, where no matter what policy comes out, you're loyal to the guy. Think about this. Donald Trump, I had so many people that said, I don't like what Donald Trump tweets, but I like his policies, so I'm going to support him. Liz Cheney, everybody's saying, look, I like her policies, I don't like what she tweets, so she needs to leave. What that shows to me is an inconsistency that is built solely around allegiance to one man, Donald Trump, and we have to recognize that as a party, and we have to recognize that 4 months ago, we allowed basically the narrative to lead to an insurgency on January 6th, and until we take ownership of that, we can't heal. That's why I think it's so important.
How long do you fight to stay a member of a club or reform a club that doesn't want you? And I'm referring to the Republican Party.
You know, look, I've been a Republican far longer than Donald Trump has, and I'm not going to let him come in and hijack my party and turn it into something that, you know, great people like Ronald Reagan and George W. and George H.W. Bush and all the great leaders back did not want it to be. I'm not going to let him win. I'm not going to let Donald Trump win at that. So that's what the fight's about. And I believe in what we used to believe in with 21st century solutions, though.
What do you, the biggest problem, it was interesting to hear Congressman Crenshaw, because he said, hey, my constituents are asking about X. Well, one of the issues in our gerrymandered society, both of congressional districts, but also in the way siloed media is, you have a sort of an information wing on the right that seems to struggle with reality themselves and feeds some of this nonsense to many of your constituents. This seems to be the broken piece here. What do you think can be done about it?
You know, I think a lot of it is just an overload of information for people. And so instead of kind of working through that information, a lot of people have just chosen, you know, what venue or what people, what personalities they trust and put all their faith in it. I think similar to Donald Trump. I think people have to take responsibility for their own ability to work through misinformation, to remember what the Constitution is about, to be okay with losing power for a little bit and let that actually reaffirm that you have to go out and win a next generation of conservatives. And right now, you know, again, we're sitting here with Donald Trump throwing up all this smokescreen of 4 months ago. We want to move on. It's hard to do when he keeps bringing it back to a stolen election, which, of course, wasn't true.
Is it uncomfortable to you that a success for the Republican Party in 2022 will mean bringing Donald Trump back as the leader and nominee? I mean, do you worry that 2022 will be a referendum on that?
Yeah, I do worry that it'll be perceived as that. I think, you know, look, we have tailwinds, certainly, to be in the majority. This happens whenever one party has complete control. I think President Biden has gone significantly far to the left, so I think the American people will react. But that is a reaction to Joe Biden, and I don't think an affirmation that Donald Trump should be the party leader. But we may take it that way.
Congressman Adam Kinzinger, a Republican from Central Illinois, thanks for coming on and sharing your perspective with us. Appreciate it.
You bet. Yep.
Hey,